first responders got all of those 50 people out safely from the facility. And of course, it took emergency crews a lot longer to get people out because this is the kind of damage and debris that they're dealing with. All of the experts I spoke with said it needs to be poured into 4 different buckets. We're actually in the building where they store the salt. You can see they're mixing it up right now. The real problem is visibility. Like right there, we've seen plows come through, we've seen salt trucks. Drone deliveries won't be here in time to deliver your Christmas presents to your doorstep this holiday season. But a different kind of delivery is on the way. This is so many people. What does this mean for Grand Rapids?
Yeah, this is such a wonderful event.
We're coming back with breaking news. Godfrey Lee Public Schools are closed this morning due to a threat. Destroyed on this side. The roof entirely caved in, debris everywhere. Sometimes these are even free, but with that many people traveling for this eclipse, you're going to want to watch out for scams.
We are live at the boat show this morning with the real star of the show.
Potholes are nothing new, but this one has really taken on a life of its own. We've already seen dozens of people come up. Yeah, and it's a lot of money. Here in Michigan, counties aren't actually required to publicly report how they're spending it. Kent County has already faced hurdles internally, both with the task force and the Board of Commissioners.
$1.6 billion, about half going to the state and half going to Michigan's 83 counties. It's part of a massive settlement between drug manufacturers and states over the opioid addiction crisis. But expert Jonathan Stoltman says the solution is getting lost in the details.
Like all of that process is still like completely opaque, even though I have like a little bit of insight to it. I can't figure it out.
He's a member of the Kent County Opioid Task Force.
It requires some careful planning. It's not a pot of money up front that we can do as we please.
Those counties not technically required to say what they're doing with the money. Kent County told me they will.
Being transparent with our community, making sure we're talking to a diverse array of partners.
Every single county in Michigan will get some money, but it really depends on how much. The smallest amount, just $173 in Union Charter Township. The biggest amount, nearly $70 million in Wayne County. Here in West Michigan, Kent County is getting more than $18 million.
Leading that charge is Rachel Jantz,
Public health epidemiologist.
Heading up a force of more than 100 people.
Law enforcement, pharmacy, academia, education, treatment, health systems.
They've been at the ready long before the settlement was even in question. But now that that money is rolling in.
It's folks like the community members that were impacted that are saying like, hey, my kid died from this. I want to make sure my neighbor doesn't deal with that. Can you please tell me that you're using the money well?
Stoltman isn't alone in his concerns. I heard next from Ivan Diaz, a Kent County commissioner who says he'd been asking for the plan and hadn't been able to get it.
Michigan has historically been one of the worst when it comes to transparency. It's no surprise to me that leaks down to the local units of government.
So I reached out to the commission and health department for their plan. They sent both Diaz and me their outline of how they're spending year 1 and year 2.
He might be looking for this final report, and that's fairly recent.
So how are they actually going to use that money? All of the experts I spoke with said it needs to be poured into 4 different buckets: prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. Kent County is spending half of their first 2 years on just funding for treatment.
Again, like treatment should get a lot of money.
Task force members have had access to this plan since early this year after they ranked their choices on a community survey. But Kent County is spending that first half of their funding on just the correctional facility. Stoltman says that's $800,000 going to something they didn't entirely vote for.
What was the formula that they used to decide $400,000 would go to law enforcement when such a small amount would go to those other buckets that we know will impact people immediately?
Some members of the task force even sending a letter in July of 2023 requesting more transparency and a needs assessment that shows how they came to their decisions. The health department responded in this letter acknowledging those concerns.
We're doing much better than so many other places because of them and their passion, so don't let that go. But please remember, we're on the same team here.
Health Officer Adam London telling us the plan is in line with the vote and standing by it.
I know that having recovery coaches in the community was, I think, the highest priority. I think the second highest priority was making sure that medically assisted treatment continued at the correctional facility.
He says a needs assessment is possible in the future. But looking back at the big picture, we're still months away from seeing that money in action. The next step is to get this in front of the Board of Commissioners.
It'll be available for anyone to review and to advise, to call their commissioner if they like it, if they don't like it.
They hope to do that at the May 21st meeting. But until that funding finishes in 2040,
We can have this transformative change,
there's a lot more details to learn,
but only if we make that effort.
county and statewide.
Again, none of this is approved yet. You can find Kent County's full plan and all of those letters in this story on our website. You'll also find an interactive graph showing you how much your city or county will get. Yeah, the words I keep hearing are shock, but also hope. They've spent much of the morning surveying the damage, and a lot of it looks just like this, with trees and crews everywhere and debris all over the ground where they live. But they said they're going to keep going because that's just what they do.
Yeah, he's good. He has a lot of questions like, Mom, where's this? Look at this.
A tight-knit community.
I got a coworker that lives over here.
Ripped apart overnight.
I'm not sure if they're okay.
John Kolinsky has woken up in Pavilion Estates every morning for more than a decade.
Yeah, I've been here for 13 years.
But when he woke up this morning,
I know that house was not there last night. I don't know where it came from.
This didn't belong.
It just dropped it right in the street.
Winds so strong it sent a home up in the air.
You ever watch the movie Twister?
And put it in John's backyard.
Really shocking, really scary.
And in parts of the street across from Mary Hale's house.
I couldn't even get through to see if everything was okay. There's a house in the middle of the road, so it was blocked.
This morning, her family woke up at her mom's house.
I have 3 other kids.
Her and her son Ethan, relieved to find their home in one piece. But John,
he couldn't imagine damage like this happening.
Finding pieces of his home strewn across the grass. But even catastrophic damage and unimaginable winds
It's overwhelming.
isn't stopping this neighborhood
But we'll get through it.
from what's kept them together
Never lose hope, you know.
all along. And of course, that's a residential area that we were in earlier, but this right now, we're on a main road. This is Sprinkle Road. So this is really affecting lots of different parts of Portage, even the main areas of thoroughfare. So definitely keep an eye on those traffic alerts and be safe. The Department of Public Safety has asked people to avoid the area if they can for now. Now reporting live in Portage, Julie Koharik, 13 on your side. Yeah, good morning. The new technology has a lot of problems, from graphic images to fake political statements. That's why Michigan is at the forefront of AI legislation. I spoke to an expert who walked me through how to tell what's real and what's fake.
You've probably seen them, but you might not know. Images like this, viral online but non-existent in real life.
If we have something that you're sort of questioning that is this real, just sort of use your intuition.
Denton Bobeldick specializes in artificial intelligence at GVSU.
Professor interviewed.
He used 2 free AI services to create images of our interview.
Blonde hair reporter.
Images like this show the creativity and accessibility of AI.
Very easy, as opposed to you, using your artistic talents.
Another service shows the rules and limitations. When he tried to make me a young reporter, he got this message, flagging it as potentially unsafe. But if he were to pay for the service, he could bypass this concern.
There's also some negative things that can happen. We saw what happened with Taylor Swift.
Pornographic, non-consensual AI photos of Swift went viral, bringing to light the lack of legislation around AI. So how can you tell what's real and what's fake?
AI still has a hard time with hands. It's not so much the hands, but it's the number of fingers.
Let's go back to this image. Besides the fact that it doesn't look like us, you can see the program had a really hard time with the hands, whether it's the placement or the amount of fingers or both. Going into the 2024 election season, knowing what to look for might be more important than ever.
Deepfakes are largely unregulated. Michigan is now, one of the leading states.
That's where Michigan's lawmakers enter the chat.
So that our voters don't have to question every single thing that they see online.
In April, the Republican National Committee released an ad to show how they see the future if President Biden is reelected.
For Joe Biden.
These images, realistic but entirely AI generated.
Taiwan.
It disclosed in small print at the top that it was made with AI. This law means this disclosure is now required at the state level.
We're asking that the disclosure not only say that it's AI generated, but also if the material is misleading.
More legislation may be on its way.
But it's a difficult issue because you're looking at the whole chain of events.
To keep the law in sync with the new tech.
So there's lots of different areas that could be legislated.
But it could be only one key.
It's a very difficult thing
to solve an emerging problem.
Michigan is now one of only 5 states that has deepfake legislation for political ads. The representative I spoke to says the next step is regulating explicit AI images.